Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy, and we're going to talk about how many people in the country are pretty anxious. The presidential election is just 11 days away. Probably by the time I upload this, it will be 10. And people are not reacting the way people should in a healthy in an election in a healthy democracy. Now I know we're not a true democracy. Don't get me caught up on that crap. You know what I mean. We're a republic, not a democracy, but you know what I mean. Don't I hate when people nitpick on words like that. Like we all know that we don't have direct democracy. We have representatives, hence a republic. So I don't whatever, side note. But people are not reacting the way you normally would. Now, what do I mean by that? They're stockpiling food and weapons and ammo, like preparing for a war. Presidential elections should not give people that much anxiety. Now, you're saying if people do that, they're just overreacting. They're just those crazy preppers, those crazy gun nuts. And I'm like, that's really interesting because this year, since the George Floyd riots, they have had a record number, not only of record number of gun sales in general, but record number of first-time gun owners buying their first weapon, which is a logical response to the incredibly destructive riots we have seen engulf the United States since May. Now I know what Democrats have come with. They're like most of the gatherings were peaceful. Only 7% of the riots were violent. Historically, in revolutions and in rebellions, you only 3% of the population actually takes up arms against the government. The other 97% of people literally do nothing else because of one reason or another. Either they don't care enough, or they're old, or their children, or they need to take care of their family, or whatever reason. The vast majority of the population never picks one side over the other. It's only 3%. Historically, it's 3%. So you're telling me that 3% of the population engaged in armed revolution like in the American Revolution, which is no big deal and no one should care about it and it wasn't really disruptive to life and whatever. It's just like that stat doesn't matter. Those 7% of gatherings that were incredibly violent were incredibly destructive. It doesn't matter that was only a small percentage. Like, well, only a small amount of planes hit buildings on 9/11, so it's really no big deal, right? Like 99.9% of planes didn't hit buildings. So like what's the big deal? Like, right? Like just that way of thinking is so retarded. Anyway, back to the point. Man, we go on tangent. It's Tangents the podcast here. I'm not saying that people stockpiling weapons, ammo, and food is irrational. What I'm saying is that it's a sign of our times and it's the sign of our state of our government that people are reacting that way. I totally understand why people are doing that. I've done that to some extent, but I've already been doing that years and years, so I didn't really have to do that much more. People looked at me like they were crazy, like I was crazy, like Robert, why do you stockpile ammo and food? It's like in case something happens. And then, 2020 happens and the shelves were bare and there's no toilet paper and there was no ammo anywhere, and when you could find ammo, it was way overpriced. And I'm like, I feel so vindicated right now. You guys made fun of me for years, and now I'm sitting back. Although I didn't have toilet paper, we were on our last roll whenever we finally found some. So toilet paper was not in my usual roundup of things to stockpile, but now it will be, along with food and ammo. Sign of our times, right? It's amazing. The fact is, people are preparing what seems like a war because of how the political parties are acting, and specifically the supporters of, let's be honest, are there any Trump supporters burning down cities? Are there any Trump supporters just shooting people in the face in the street, murdering people in cold blood just because they support Joe Biden? The violence is overwhelmingly on the Democratic side. And again, that's a topic for another time. If you don't believe that, then I'm sorry you've been missing out on the hundreds of Antifa and Black Lives Matter riots, burning whole city streets to the ground and killing dozens and dozens of people. Find me something where a Trump supporter riot has done anything like that ever. And I know what the left's going to do. They're going to go to Charlottesville 3 years ago. Okay, so I'll give you that. So 3 years ago, one white supremacist killed one person. Okay, that's 3 fucking years ago, dipshit. The other 3 years, they have done nothing. Meanwhile, the Democrats have been killing dozens and dozens of people out on the streets, burning whole city streets to the ground, causing billions of dollars of damage. And you're like, oh, well, I guess both sides are kind of violent right now. Okay, if you believe that, then there's no hope at this point. I don't know why you're watching this video. The fact that one political party, the Democratic Party, and their supporters can cause so much anxiety in the population that they feel the rational thing to do is to stockpile weapons, ammo, and food is a telling sign of the state of our country and our government. We would prepare the same way if, like, China was preparing to invade the mainland. Meaning, many people logically, rationally see a huge segment of the population and one of the major political parties as a threat, just like China or any other invading country. Take your pick, like Russia or Iran. Like, I don't care. It's just an example. I know I hate when people nitpick on the stupidest fucking crap when they become an example. It's like, hey, with China, we never invade us. Okay, fuck, I don't care. Pick another country. It's just the first one I thought of. Like, come on. It doesn't detract from the analogy I'm making. Like, goddamn, you just don't know how to interpret examples. It's so frustrating, but also hilarious at the same time. And what's even more hilarious is that the other half, the Democrats in this country, see the Republicans as a threat, like China. They think I remember I was well, I won't tell you where I am because I don't want to give it away. I overheard a conversation between two radical liberals talking, and they're like, "Oh my God, these like right-wing militia were like, I'm they scare me so much. Like they said they're going to go to polling stations, intimidate people. Like this is so sad. Gun owners are just so radical. Trump supporters are so fascist." I was sitting there, I couldn't respond because well, I can't tell you the reason why, but I couldn't. And I'm just, but I wanted to. I wanted to go up there. And I'm like, are you guys fucking insane? What examples have you seen of right-wing militia groups going to polling or voting stations and intimidating voters? I would give you my life savings if you could find one fucking example of that. You won't. You will never find it ever. It's made up bullshit. They're like, but the FBI, they have credible sources from anonymous sources. Oh, that whole charade. Oh yeah, like the FBI had anonymous sources. No, not the FBI. The CIA had anonymous sources that Saddam was making WMDs. Wow, yeah, that's an old trick. We're pulling the playbook from 19. No, sorry, the Afghanistan War is 19 years ago. We're pulling the playbook from 17 fucking years ago. Like, wow, you really are stupid if you believe the whole charade. The CIA had anonymous sources. Like, come on, how can you fall for that time and time again? I can guarantee those two people did not directly see any post or message or anything from any right-wing militia group. And if they did, it was fabricated. But 9 times out of 10, they don't even show anything. Like there's a news article from like WTOP or some stupid pro-government, big media thing. Like sources indicate that right-wing militia were messaging each other on this app, like Discord or something, about doing these things at polling stations, but they never show anything ever. And not 9 times out of 10 they don't. And when they do, it's like made up crap. Like that right wing conspiracy theory to kidnap the two governors of Michigan and Virginia. Guess who was the ringleader in that? I'll give you three choices, three times to pick, and the first two don't count. So drum roll, please. The leader of it was an FBI informant. So the FBI pays this guy to like go find people who don't like the government, and then he just riles them all up and makes this whole organization, makes this whole plan, and then the day of, boom, caught you, we got terrorists, and I'm like, but you're the one who started it. They wouldn't have done anything if you didn't do anything. Almost every single time, there may be a couple of cases where this didn't happen, but 9 times out of 10, every single time the FBI catches terrorists, it's something they created. That's why the profile picture of many, I think Liberty Memes was the most famous one, but that one got deleted a year or two ago because it was racist or Facebook just didn't like it because it made fun of them or something. But like, it shows this woman. If I put it up on the screen, if I can find it, it shows this woman like really surprised reading a newspaper, and it's like FBI foils FBI terrorist plot. It's like it's almost every single fucking time. Like, so sorry. My point was how the Republicans, or just normal people in general, view the radical left and Joe Biden as a legitimate threat to them. But the Democrats see Donald Trump and his supporters in exactly the same way, only that time there is no basis in reality for anything that they view as a threat. Trump supporters literally just want to be left the fuck alone. Normal people want to be left the fuck alone from these Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots that just kill a bunch of people and just destroy whole buildings, destroy houses. There's thugs running around suburbs throwing Molotov cocktails at houses and cars saying, we're going to kill you. And then it's just like, okay, so when have you ever seen Trump supporters do that ever? So I guess the whole point of this video was just to show like people should not have this much anxiety over a legitimate government that actually wants to defend their rights. And you're like, well, to find a government that does that. No, I know they all suck, but the fact that we're preparing for what seems like a war because of an election, which most people, including myself, even doubt the validity of it because there's so much bullshit going on with voter fraud and ballot tampering and all these allegations and all these secret little weird things going on that are just, if it was one thing in isolation, it wouldn't be a big deal. But all these things are happening right before the election. All of these weird little things. Oh, like one thing. I heard that DC automatically mailed everyone in that was registered voter. They mailed them a ballot form. I'm thinking to myself, how the fuck is that not voter fraud? How is that not messing with the election? And you think, well, why is that, Robert? They're just mailing you something. Well, because people are more likely to vote if the ballot just comes right to them and they don't have to do anything about it versus like the apathetic voters, the voters that don't care a lot, and some of them will turn out to the polls and vote, but some of them might, some might not. But they're more likely to vote if you do all the work for them and automatically just mail them something. They don't have to do anything. Like, oh, well, I might as well check it and mail it back like I already have it. And it's like, well, why is that voter fraud? They didn't mail just Democrats or just Republicans ballots. No, but Democrats is like DC is like 90% Democrat. So they obviously knew that by doing this, they would by default get more Democratic votes. And DC was just the one I saw that did that. I'm sure there's more that are doing that, and they're I can bet you my life savings they're all going to be Democratic controlled areas. I haven't heard of a single Republican city or town or county that is doing this. If there is, I would love to hear that. But I feel like that is just it's not really you're not it's not strict voter fraud. You're not legitly just tearing up ballots or changing people's answers or their votes or something, but you're kind of slyly indirectly doing something that will inevitably end up with more votes for your party. Like Muriel Bowser is a Democrat. She's a Democratic mayor of DC, and she ordered to do this. She knew by doing this, her party would get more votes. So how is that not voter fraud? Imagine if a Republican government did the same thing. Imagine if Trump's like, oh, Trump's like, oh yeah, because of coronavirus, I'm just going to mail every single Republican a ballot. Or every single county that polls, I'm polling high, and I'm just going to send everyone a ballot. Because of coronavirus and safety, and we want to protect grandma. It's kind of it's not directly cheating, but it's so fucking sly. And that in tandem with all those other things, I'm just like, how the fuck is that allowed? Why is no one calling out on this? Like, how can we accept the validity of the results when there's all these sneaky little things going on? So where am I going with this? In conclusion, the U.S. is pretty fucking whack, and the fact that our government sucks this much that we have to go through all this bullshit right before an election, something's. I mean, of course, I don't have to tell you this; you already know this, but something is majorly wrong. We need major change, systemic change. I'm not talking about the Black Lives Matter Marxist change. Not their structural reorganization. My structural reorganization that I'm advocating for is like get rid of 99.9% of government programs, balance the budget, and don't break the Constitution. Boom. Wow. That's so difficult. I don't know why anyone can't do it. It's almost like they don't care and they're deliberately not doing that because it takes more effort to run this shit show of a country than it would be to do those things, three things I just mentioned. Like, you're making it harder for yourself and you're making it suck more. Like, why the fuck are you in government? So I'm gonna leave it with this. This picture I thought was very interesting. This post here from the Facebook page. Our government is what our forefathers, founding fathers, warned about, which I thought is very telling. I keep hearing the left say just how dangerous Trump is, but I guarantee you that there aren't any Trump voters burning down cities. I can't trust anything the left trots out because they are just pure evil. The Republican Party is the useless party, but the Democratic Party is just plain evil. I'm never going to vote for either because of their antics. Vote gold, hashtag libertarian, hashtag JoJo2020. And that is basically what I feel like. I was going to vote for Trump before this year, but this year has been such a fucking shit show, and he just lets all this stuff happen that even though it's not the Republican Party doing these things, they're just letting it happen. It's like, so they're just as guilty, that they're not calling this shit out. They're too afraid. It's like if a teacher allows another student A to bully student B is going to get mad at student A for bullying them, but he's also going to get mad at the teacher for just sitting idly by and letting all this happen. Trump absolutely has the power to send in federal troops to stop these violent thugs from killing and burning buildings down. I hate it when libertarians like, no, he doesn't have the authority to use troops on U.S. civilians. To protect U.S. civilians? Yeah, he does, actually. It's completely Europe, completely constitutionally, the president is allowed to use the military to protect U.S. citizens. It doesn't matter whether it's against other Americans or on U.S. soil. He's totally allowed to do that. So that argument is just fucking retarded. There's no other way to put it. But he doesn't. People complain about how he's a fascist, how he's being too hard on these protesters, and he's throwing the hammer down too hard. I'm thinking to myself, he's doing like a 1 out of 10 compared to what he should be doing. He should be going 10 out of 10 full force on these fuckers, but he's not. So how is it any better? Yes, he's not doing it himself. The Republicans and Trump supporters are not doing it themselves. But the fact that Trump just sits by and just lets all this happen, it's like, how can I vote for you? All of the suffering we have gone through this year has been under a Trump presidency. So while it's not necessarily Trump's America because it's Democrats doing it, in a way it kind of is because it's under his rule. It's under his presidency that all of this crap has happened. It's just going to be worse if Democrats get in control. So I really don't. I kind of flip flop literally daily about who I'm going to vote for, but I'm almost positive I'm going to vote for Joe Jorgensen. But it's just ridiculous. It's all so fucking ridiculous that this is all of 2020. And I know not all of 2020 is about the election because of coronavirus, but the fact that coronavirus was politicized because it was election year, and the fact that we've gone through all this bullshit during an election year just to have an election that we don't even know it's going to be valid or not is just really telling. And how our government has completely failed us from start to finish, top to bottom. Both parties. I'm not going to leave the Republicans out of this one. And that's that. That's my rant for the day.